Every time you start a session with an AI, it starts from a totally blank slate. If you close the chat, then it'll forget everything about your existence. So I gave mine a second brain, not a metaphor, an actual Obsidian vault with actual daily notes, where it writes down what we did and why every single session. All of it lives in one folder where all of my videos are made. This is my cooker. This is where everything in my videos becomes reality. This is where I make the animations, the thumbnails, the titles, the scripts, everything in between. This is really the kitchen where everything goes down behind the scenes. One of the problems that I've had recently is that Claude makes a lot of files for me to read that I never actually end up reading. The reason why is because, well, no one's got the time for that kind of stuff. If I did want to read it, I could, of course, always go to a file, hit Command Y on my keyboard, and it pulls up a little mini preview, right? That's one simple way of doing it. But the problem is, I can never actually go ahead and edit those documents, those markdown files. Once Claude makes them, sure, I can preview them right there, but I can't edit them. Now, of course, I could go ahead and install something like VS Code and use that, but that's a little too complicated for my workflow. So what I wanted to try and do is actually put an Obsidian vault inside of my cooker. That way, anytime Claude makes a markdown file that I'm supposed to read, whether it's a doc or it's a guide or a workflow or anything in between, I can just go to the Obsidian vault and I have all of them right there. It makes it incredibly easy to navigate, work with, edit, read, everything in between. Now, to do this, it's actually pretty straightforward. All I have to do is make a new vault inside of my cooker. It's pretty straightforward. So I'll create a new vault. I'll name it, I don't know, cooker vault. Hit create. Of course, got to pick a valid location. Boom. Now that the vault has been built, I took it to Claude to have the crab move everything that was scattered around my project into the vault. But what's interesting is that instead of just moving everything over or making a copy to put inside the vault, Claude actually used symlinks. This is a very unique way of doing it because it means that the original files can stay exactly where they are, but I can still access them inside my vault, see them, edit what I need to, etc. Which means it's kind of like they're in two places at once. I didn't even know that I could do this, which makes the whole process significantly easier. Now that Claude has finished organizing everything, let's take a look at our vault and see what it actually looks like. Okay, very interesting. So we got a graph view of, I guess, everything that's in here. Pretty interesting, I suppose. We've got docs for everything inside each domain. We also have the guides in here that Claude would use when it's making these things. So if I didn't like something that Claude was doing in terms of its workflow, its process, I could come in here and actually change that, which is super useful. This right here is an example of one of the guides for thumbnails. So every time I've ever made a thumbnail, I've always used Claude to do it. And throughout that process, it might take, let's say, 3 or 4 hours of going back and forth to find the right idea, the right concept. We iterate back and forth, and Claude has essentially gathered all of those lessons and put them into a single file. But if I didn't like something in here, for example, a specific color or a font or anything in between, I could actually come in here and change that myself, which is just phenomenal. One thing I have not checked yet is the homepage that Claude made for me. Apparently, this is supposed to be pretty cool. So we'll see. I don't have the highest expectations right now, but Claude made it seem as if this was supposed to be really cool. So let's check it out. Okay, well, I am extremely disappointed. This is basically a glossary of a book. Okay then, well, that's pretty boring, I guess. After being severely disappointed by Claude's vault, I decided, why not spice it up a little bit? So I asked Claude to go into the back rooms of Obsidian. I don't really know how it works. I don't really care to either. But I asked it to spice it up, make it look cool, pretty, fun. Supposedly, this time, it actually made it fun. So let's go inside and check it out, see what it looks like. Open. Whoa, holy, okay, this is so interesting. Welcome to the vault. Every file here is the real file. Edit anything. Very cool. Honestly, I think that this is awesome. It even took the little scan lines, like a 70s TV style type thing. I thought it was a pretty unique thing. Not sure if anyone else feels the same way, but I liked it. And honestly, I think it's pretty cool. But this, sure, this isn't anything crazy, right? Like it's not like this is going to improve the workflow by any sort of magnitude, right? But it is kind of cool, right? Come in here, it's a cool little vibe. Why not make it look pretty if I'm going to be spending a lot of time in here? At least that's the way that I like to see it. Enjoy the little things, right? Since Claude was able to make this new vault really fun and interesting, I asked it to dig a little bit further and see what else it could come up with. I have a general gist of what's going to go on here, but I have no idea what it looks like, and I'm really intrigued to see what this is actually going to look like. So let's open it up for the very first time. Yes, trust. Okay, all right. I think I need to reopen it, if I'm not mistaken. Let's try it again. Whoa. That's pretty cool, eh? Oh. Looks like scrolling while it's animating bugs it out a little bit. Okay, so let's try that again. Honestly, that's kind of cool, I guess. Looks like it's being typed out as it goes. That's fun. Does it break if I scroll again? Yeah, it does. That's unfortunate. Well, I guess I'm going to have to debug my vault. I wasn't expecting that. Let's see here. So we have a pipeline now. Let's see. Oh, whoa. Okay. What is going on here? Let's make this a little bit bigger. Zoom in. So this is my workflow, essentially. But why can't I Oh, I just had to zoom in further. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, this is literally my entire process. That is awesome. Well, I'm not going to expose the magic trick, right? Magician never reveals his secrets. This is a little sneak peek behind the scenes of how everything goes down. And honestly, I think this is really useful because I've always wanted a visual way of seeing how I actually do everything. Well, this is actually pretty convenient. I wanted to do this anyways. I guess it was already done on my behalf. It's pretty awesome. I believe Claude also changed up the graph view. I'm going to take a look at that and see if anything changed. Okay, whoa. Now these all have colors. That's kind of cool, I guess. Interesting. I mean, it didn't change a whole lot, but I guess, colors are fun. So I told Claude about the bug in my Obsidian vault of all things, and it told me that apparently it's fixed now. So I want to go in and check it out. So let's open Obsidian. Whoa. I mean, okay, it added even more pizzazz. I guess that's cool. And the bug is still there. Okay. Oh, yeah. Every time I scroll, it always bugs out. Very strange. But I mean, whatever, I guess. It is pretty cool though. But one idea I had when I was doing all of this is every time I've ever used any sort of AI, to make it actually valuable to you, you have to give it a ton of context every time. You have to re-explain things about your life or what you did or what you haven't done. And it requires a lot of work to actually get that done. I can't tell you how many stories I've repeated to Claude just so that I could have it help me with a problem. And no matter what happens, that will always be a problem because every time you start a session with AI and you do your thing, you get that problem solved, you fix that bug, whatever the case is. Once you're done, that session no longer exists. It's just sitting in your archive somewhere, which means next time you start a new session, that session is starting from a totally blank slate. To me, that is extremely irritating because no matter what you try and do, you can't get around that. So I had the idea, what if I gave Claude its own journal? Because in Obsidian, you have the feature of daily notes. So I figured, well, what if I gave Claude access to that feature and then every time I had a new session with it, it uses that daily note as its own scratch pad for thinking, for working on concepts, for documenting decisions. Like maybe we try one angle and we decide we don't like it, so we move on to a different one. All of that gets documented, which means when I load up my next session, that instance of Claude has all of our history together, which means I don't have to explain everything over and over and over again. That to me was extremely powerful in terms of an idea. So I had Claude go through our previous sessions and draw up some memoirs, I guess you could say, from our previous sessions. See, for example, on this day, the 9th, it was the day that the overlays died. Because when I originally wanted to do animations, Claude thought that I just wanted simple overlays on my videos, which wasn't the case at all. I wanted to make real full-blown animations. So that entire session was documented and all of my reasoning behind it, all of the work that I put into prompting Claude in the first place has value as time moves forward. And I think the best part about this is actually the fact that in 6 months from now, or a year from now, or in 3 years from now, I can look back and I have the entire journey documented. Some people like to journal on pen and paper themselves. Sure, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But now I have almost like someone documenting the journey for me from the other side of the table, which means no matter what down the road, I'm always going to have access to this because these are just markdown files.